I was up north, far north British Columbia, Canada, working in an oil rig camp out in the woods. I was working as a cook and I was given a separate cabin there. There was another cook with me, but at that time, he had gone on leave for a few days. One day, I went out of my cabin for a smoke on the back side of my cabin. It was about 2 o'clock in the afternoon. It was a very quiet, still winter day. It was snowing, those kind of big snowflakes that make it look like the world is moving in slow motion. So as I was standing there smoking, just staring off in the distance, not looking at anything particular, looking left, right, up, down at my feet. What for? I felt something looking at me. Then I looked straight ahead. About 30 feet or less in front of me was the tree line of the forest, and directly in front of me, in between two trees, I see the most gigantic wolf I have ever seen. This thing sitting looked like it was the size of a man standing. It was massive, sitting there and just staring right at me. We locked eyes. Then I slowly started baking away. At the same time, Wolf also started coming towards me. But before he attacked me, I hurried into my cabin. I was scared, and even in such cold, I started sweating. But when I looked through the window, he was gone. Out of fear, I called some other workers there so that we could sleep together in my cabin. And for our protection, we also kept knives and sticks with us. We were just laying down to sleep that we heard the sound of something moving. No doubt he was a wolf. Suddenly, we realized that we forgot to lock the cabin's door. Suddenly, we felt the wolf pounding its nails on the door, and none of us dared to lock the door. We were all standing ready with knives and sticks in our hands, when suddenly the door opened and the wolf came in and attacked us. Without thinking, we also attacked him with our sticks and knives. The wolf was badly injured and ran away. But sadly, 2 of our workers were also slightly injured. But thankfully, being together saved us from a huge loss of life. As soon as the morning light came, they were shifted to the nearest hospital. And thankfully, that wolf never came back. After many years, I still feel this creepiness that what would have happened if the rest of the workers were not with me that night? What could that wolf done to me if I had been there alone? My family used to go camping with a few groups of friends when I was a kid. I remember one Christmas when I was about 5, we were camping out in a forest in deep woods. There were 9 kids in total at our campsite. We were allowed to wander through the forest. The parents would give us a walkie-talkie to tell us when to come back to camp, but we never wandered far. On the way, the walkie-talkie fell from us somewhere, and we got busy playing. After a while, we remembered that we didn't have the walkie-talkie, so we started looking for it. After searching, we found it fallen in one place. And while picking it up, an unfamiliar voice came over our walkie-talkie. It was a man's voice. He said he was Santa, and that he was trying to find us to give us our presents, and asked us to look for him. And as soon as we reached our campsite, we saw that there was no one there, and the walkie-talkie was there on the ground. We got scared, and suddenly we saw a man standing far away, staring at us. And suddenly, he started walking towards us. We started running back from there, and started calling our parents loudly. And as soon as we reached the place where we were playing, we saw our parents there, and we rushed and hugged them, and told them in a very scared voice that someone was following us. But when we looked back, no one was there. Then they asked us, "Where's your walkie-talkie was?" We heard Santa's voice on it, and quickly left to find you. That's when we told them that our walkie-talkie had fallen somewhere, but as soon as we found it, we also heard Santa's voice, and we went back to get our gifts, but there was no one there except a scary person. And as soon as he saw us, he started chasing us. After hearing this, everyone got scared and quickly packed their bags and went back home. After that day, we never thought about camping in the forest. I was hiking across Newfoundland, following an old railway that was long ago disassembled and turned into a giant trail, sleeping wherever I found myself at night. One day I ran into a small cottage town, except everything was abandoned, trailers falling apart, bus conversions burnt out, Small cabins all shuttered up. It was creepy but interesting at the same time. The sun was waning, so I decided to set up camp in a mostly empty lot that had an abandoned truck slowly falling into a ravine near it. Cooked up some food and crawled into my tent to sleep. I wake up sometime in the night and I hear footsteps outside my tent. At first I think it's an animal, but the steps sound like someone walking, a human. The steps get closer and go around my tent. I slowly and quietly pull out my dagger. If he tries to get in, my plan is to stab first and ask questions later. Anyone trying to get into my tent at night in the middle of nowhere is looking to do some kind of harm. My heart is racing at this point, but I try to just be quiet. Suddenly, the sound of footsteps stopped at the front side of my camp. After a while, a man of terrible appearance entered the camp, and as I said, I attacked him with my dagger without asking. But he dodged back so nimbly as if he knew I was going to attack him. And then he started trying to distract me from his words, that I was just passing by here and I saw your camp here. Leave your dagger and come out. I will not harm you. But I understood that he was telling a lie. Why would a person pass through here at such a late night without any reason? So I also started questioning him, and at the same time started putting my stuff in the bag. And then I pushed him away with a jerk and started running down the trail to get the hell out of there without seeing behind. I ran until daytime, came across a road and flagged down a truck. That guy was nice and drove me to town where I got a hotel. Even today, many years later, when I think about this incident, I get a shiver in my body that I don't know who that person was and what he was doing there at that time of night. But I'm glad he didn't come after me.